Hello friends, today we're going to talk about mountain bike rear derailleur compatibility with both cassettes and shifters. So here's the content I'm going to first introduce to MTB rear derailleurs, and then some info about the shifters. Then I'll talk about some compatibility issues, and the last will be my recommendation. Okay, so the most common brands are Shimano and SRAM. And for SRAM, it has a cage lock feature, which makes it more convenient to take off the rear wheel. And for GX Eagle or transmission, and the levels above them, they're mainstream mountain bike electronic shift kits. And the rear derailleur of the SRAM derailleurs, the clutch could not be easily adjusted. That means the tension of the cage could not be easily adjusted. And the quality-wise, NX and SX is pretty subpar, and the hanger bolt will request constant tightening in order to maintain the shift quality. Well, Shimano, on the other hand, has a switchable and adjustable clutch system, but the clutch will need constant maintenance and greasing in order to keep the shifting performance. And so far, there's no wireless group sets for 12 speed. And across the lineup from Dior to XTR, the shifting performance is pretty consistent. Okay. Next, let's talk about the long, medium, and short cage rear derailleurs. So for long cages, SRAM typically is their 12-speed Eagle 1x system. Their max cassette cog is 50 or 52 tooth, depending on whether you have the latest version or the previous version. Well, for Shimano, for 11-speed, it has SGS, for example, M7000, M8000. It could be used as a 3x, which limits the largest cog to 40T for the cassette, or 2x, which limits to 42 tooth, and 1x, which limits to 46 tooth. And also for 12-speed series, you will have, for example, M7100 SGS or M7120 SGS, and above, XT and XTR level. So for example, M7100 SGS, it could be used as a 1x system. The largest cassette is 51 tooth. And for M7120, that will be a 2x system. And the largest cog of the cassette will be 45 tooth. For medium cage, it's for SRAM is their 11-speed system. Their max cassette cog is around 42 tooth. And for Shimano medium cage, also you will have some 11-speed system. In this case, it's their GS medium cage. It could be used as 2x or 1x. And for 12-speed, you will need to use the, for example, M7100 GS rear derailleur. The medium cage will support the close range cassette, which maximum could be 45 tooth. And for short cages, they're mainly used on DH bikes. For example, XO or GX DH rear derailleur. The maximum cassette is 28 tooth. For Shimano is their Sin lineup, Sin SS, and you can use the 28 tooth or up to 36 tooth. Okay, next let's briefly talk about the derailleur mount. Here we have standard mount versus direct mount. So on the left, we have the Dior 11-speed or 12-speed rear derailleur. So you can see on the left, I mark as not support direct mount hanger. The reason for that is if we look at the right side, the XT derailleur, that one will support direct mount hanger because there's an additional B-link that you can take off for the direct mount hanger. And if we compare the hanger shape, we will see that the direct mount hanger will basically replace the B-link. So that's why when you mount them, you will need to take off the B-link of the derailleur and then mount that. I actually have a picture from Shimano, which addresses, the differences between these two. And here you can obviously see the difference. Okay, so for shifters, again, big brands Shimano and SRAM. For Shimano, their XT and XTR level can upshift 4 gears at a time, or downshift 2 gears at a time. And for Dior or SLX, it can upshift 3 gears or downshift 1 gear at a time. And feeling-wise, Dior SLX shifter feels softer, while XT and XTR feels a little bit harder to push, but it also feels crispier. And for technology-wise, XT and XTR has instant release function, and Dior and above, they all have two-way release function. For SRAM, every Eagle shifter can upshift 5 gears or downshift 1 gear at a time. SRAM shifter feels pretty crispy, but not really make your finger that tired. And it only has one-way release, which means you need to upshift and downshift using your thumb. Okay. Next, let's briefly talk about the pull ratio. What pull ratio means basically is just your shifter cable movement comparing to the rear derailleur lateral movement. So I actually found some detailed measurement for different systems. So it's they're listed at the left, and by calculating, we can see Shimano from 10 speed to up to 12 speed, their pull ratio is pretty consistent, which is 1.1. For SRAM, their 11 speed and 12 speed, their pull ratio is also the same, but it's 1.12. So some minor difference between Shimano and SRAM system. So as a rule of thumb, interchanging Shimano 10, 11, and 12 speed shifter or derailleur, as long as you select the correct cage, then it should work flawlessly. And interchanging SRAM 11 or 12 speed should work flawlessly as well, given that your cage selection is correct. Okay, so here I listed different scenarios which you probably will use 12-speed SRAM rear derailleur, 12-speed SRAM cassette, and 12-speed Shimano shifter. That will give you some error, but the delta is less than 1%. If you have a different scenario, for example, 11-speed system, 11-speed SRAM rear derailleur, 11-speed SRAM cassette, and 11-speed Shimano shifter, that will give you a roughly around 0.6% delta. Then moving on, I listed some different scenarios, but the biggest difference that I can see if you have that kind of combination, the delta is around 2%. Okay, then the worst case scenario is actually if you're using a SRAM rear derailleur with Shimano cassette and also SRAM shifter, or vice versa, you're using the Shimano rear derailleurs, 12-speed SRAM cassette, and 12-speed Shimano shifter, then the delta will be 2.8%. But based on the real world data, even you have 2.8% error in it, you can still manage to make it work with some careful tuning. Okay, so basically the summary table I have here is that for Shimano 11 or 12-speed system, you can interchange the shifter or the rear derailleur as long as the cage selection is correct. And that will be the same for both SRAM and Shimano. But if you're mixing both brands, you will definitely need to do some careful tuning. And depending on what brand of cassette you're using, those tuning could be a little bit easier or a little bit harder. Okay, so the compatibility among shifters, rear derailleurs, and cassettes, I have 3 tricks over here. So as of right now, I think most cassette, the smallest cock will have either 9 or 10 or 11 tooth. So the cage length is actually determined mainly by the largest cock. So the largest cock on the cassette will decide your rear derailleur cage. For example, if you're having a 51 tooth or 52 tooth cassette, then most likely you will need a long cage, whether it will be SRAM Eagle or uh, the Shimano SGS. It depends. And the number of cocks on the cassette determines the shifter speed. That's pretty obvious. You cannot really make, using 11-speed shifter to work with a 12-speed cassette. And for shifter and rear derailleur, it could be mismatched, but you need to do that with careful tuning based on the things we just discussed. Okay, some recommendation on my side for rear derailleur. In order to get a bargain version and but also performs pretty consistent, I would recommend the Dior RDM 5100. The reason is the design and material used are identical to the M6100 rear derailleur. So if you cannot find 6100, then you can just buy the 5100 as a replacement. They're identical. And the steel guide plate design could be is arguably more resistant to impact. And the weight difference with this one and the SLX version is less than 10 grams. Additionally, you can also upgrade the pulleys from bushing version to the bearing version, which the bearing versions are used on the XT or XTR. Okay, so for shifter recommendation, I here would recommend if you can, if you're okay with the shifting feeling, I would recommend the XT level or above. It has a crispier shifting feel, and it also has the instant release and multi release function, which could be arguably, shifting faster than the lower level shifters. Okay, thank you very much for today's discussion. Please like, comment, and subscribe. Have a nice day. Thank you.